commission meeting today. We will jump on the agenda. We've got a bunch to talk about today, so we'll start off with the invocation by Steph Ebert. Steph?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful to have the opportunity to be here today. We're grateful for this wonderful community that we live in and this wonderful nation that we live in. We're very grateful for all of those that serve and sacrifice for us every day, and we ask Thee to bless them with safety and security and the knowledge that we're appreciative of their service. We're very grateful for our leaders in our community and ask You to bless them with the knowledge and the strength and the courage to do what's right. We say these things and ask for these blessings in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
The audience, please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stephanie and Shelley. Our thought of the day. In the barn, day after day, feeding, watering, and putting out hay, rinsing, brushing, and blowing the right way. Come one, come all, it's Weber County Fair Day. So the Weber County Fair is underway tomorrow. Starts, we have the grand opening in the afternoon, but it opens tomorrow morning at 11. I don't know if Marty has any comments he would like to say about the fair, but there's a lot. Come on up for a minute. Why don't you let the folks out in TV land, all 11 of them watching, knowing what's going on out there.
Thanks, Commissioner. I hope I remember what's going on, everything out there. There's a lot. Don't forget this year, it's Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. every day, which you said. This year's theme is Aussie Kingdom. We have a great display of animals and creatures from Australia, which will be fun. Some big giant blow-up games out that the kids can have activities on out by the horse track. We have a great concert this year. Yeah, it's going to end up out there.
Great.
So that'll be fun to go out in that corner of the fairgrounds. And great concert on Saturday night, Brothers Osborne. That should be exciting. An up-and-coming country group that most people are probably aware of. Of course, the Demolition Derby, MMA fights, lots of great food. All the entries are up this year, and all the agriculture and expo, so lots to do.
Great. Well, I know there's a lot going on out there. I've been involved with the fair since I worked at the sheriff's office, so it's a great thing, and we appreciate your leadership out there. Let your team know. We'll be out there starting probably later today. We'll come out and spend a little time as we're getting things rolling. So
Look
thanks,
forward
Marty.
to seeing you.
See ya. Thank you. Oh, also, we just wanted to make a quick note. One of our good friends and from law enforcement and one of our community leaders, Talitha Lindquist, passed away. And we'd like to just take and have just a moment of silence for that. Thank you. All right, we'll jump onto the agenda here. Consent items, number E. Number 1, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $99,291.50. Number 2, request for approval of warrants 407706 to 47933 in the amount of $600,792.97. Request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held on July 12th and August 2nd, 2016. Request for approval of a new business license. Request for approval to set the date of August 23rd at 10 a.m. for a public hearing to consider and take action on the proposal to amend Title 104 zones, Chapter 21, the Commercial Valley Zone CV1 and CV2 to allow dwelling units in the zone if they were previously approved as part of a development agreement and to provide specific standards governing them. Request to set the date for August 23rd, 2016 at 10 a.m. for a public hearing for the vacation of public utilities easements in Allen Estates Subdivision, Phase 1, Lot 27. The 10-foot public utility easement is located along the side and rear of Lot 27. Request for approval to spend impact fees for shoulder study improvements on 7100 East for the Pine View Loop Trail. Request for approval of ACH payment to U.S. banks in the amount of $168,653.73 for purchasing card transactions made through the billing period ending June 27, 2016. Request for approval of ACH payments to U.S. Bank in the amount of $108,430.90 for purchase card transactions made through the billing cycle ending July 25, 2016. Request for approval to declare parcel 06-087-0004 as surplus. Request for approval to declare parcel 13-029-0028 as surplus.
No questions for me.
I'll take a motion. Oh, Ricky.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
23 purchase order this week for $99,000. 32% of that, or $32,000, was for roads, and that was equipment rental, chip oil transport, and a pneumatic tire roller. 20% or $20,000 was for the conference center, and that will go towards new theater doors. 15% or $15,000 is for the library. That's for materials, signs, and book trucks. $10,000 is for the Golden Spike, and that's for shavings. $10,000 for the health department for copier and for vaccines. And 6% or $6,000 is for dispatch, and that was for a switch. As far as checks go, we issued 228 checks this week for $601,000. 14% of that, or $84,000, was health department, and that was for vehicle replacements. 11% or $69,000 was for roads, and that's primarily asphalt and materials. 9% or $54,000 is for the library for books and materials, and another 9% or $54,000 was for public works, and that was mostly for the juvenile detention center, but there was also some for Powder Mountain road utility work. Another 9% or $51,000 was for the conference center, and that went to mostly utilities and food expense. And then 6% or $36,000 was for Homeland Security, and that was for protective equipment and some training.
Great. Thank you. Been busy doing lots of road projects.
I'm in the juvenile detention center, and if you haven't driven down 12th Street and looked towards the correctional facility, that building's gone. The old Jones building is gone, and you can see the sheriff's office. And if I may say so, it's actually a good-looking building. It's been hidden for such a long time, and will be hidden again when the detention center is finished. But they're definitely doing a lot of work out on that facility. So great job. Thank you, Ricky. I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent items as read.
I second that motion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Also, I neglected to excuse Commissioner Gibson. He had a previous commitment this morning, so we're missing him, but I hope he's watching us. So, okay, we'll go to number 1, discussion and or action on appointing a new chair and vice chair of the Weaver County Commission. Commissioner Ebert.
So I had an opportunity to talk to Commissioner Gibson, who has been our chair and has done an amazing job. He has expressed to me his want and need at this time to step down as chair. He's extremely busy. He's traveling again on county business, representing us well, and has asked at this time if we would accept his resignation as chair. So that leaves us kind of in a quandary on what the process should follow and how we should move forward. So I would just quickly ask Dave Wilson on what's the common process or procedure we would take on replacing a chair.
Well, common practice on especially an unexpected event is to elevate the vice chair to the chair for any given period, because the vice chair is normally filled in for the chair from time to time in the chair's absence anyhow. So that's an option.
Okay, any questions or concerns with moving forward in an action like that, or?
No, sir, it's really up to the commission to elect a chair and vice chair anytime they are inclined to do so.
I know Commissioner Bell is only 4 or 5 months away from leaving office. I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in doing or willing to accept.
Sure.
And so before we move forward, I thought maybe I would see what your thoughts were.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion that we accept Commissioner Gibson's resignation as chair of the Weber County Commission, and I would make a motion that we appoint the vice chair to the chair position, Commissioner Bell, and that Commissioner Ebert would then be the vice chair.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell.
Number 2, request for approval of an interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Weber Basin Water Conservancy District for the 330 South Chip Seal Road Striping Project, agreement including a resolution. Chad Meyerhofer.
Good morning, Commissioners. And it's actually the 3300 South chip seal project. But yeah, this is an interlocal agreement between us and Weber Basin. They had to come down 3300 South here last year with, or this year with a secondary water line. And unfortunately, just last year, we chip sealed that road. And so per ordinance, it's required of them to restore that back to the condition it was where it was so recent. So we're entering into this agreement to receive the funds from them and have our county roads departments do the work as far as the chip seal and the road striping. So
the Weber Basin Water District's going to write a check out the county and they'll refix the road up?
Yep.
Great.
And they chose that this interlocal agreement's the way they would like to proceed with that process.
Okay.
So
Great.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is this a completely net neutral cost to the county?
correct. It'll just be, I mean, they'll give us the funds and then we expend them to restore that surface back.
Okay. Our office just hadn't seen the cover sheet to see if that's a...
And I apologize, that's my fault. I was out last week, and so I asked Cortland to get this on the agenda for me. So
Okay.
I think in talking with Shelley, we were gonna have you approve this contingent upon those offices and Scott approving of this contract.
That
So
would be, that was my request. That's
Oh, okay.
Yep,
So,
thanks.
so you want us to approve it as long as Scott buys off on it? It's a 16,000, something like that. If Scott says it's in order, then we'll move ahead with it. So it's at least done.
Sounds great. That's what
Oh,
I think.
And thank you. Thank you, Ricky.
Your pleasure, Commissioner.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Weber Basin Water Conservancy District for the 3300 South Chip and Seal, pending Scott Parks' approval, and Ricky Hatch's approval.
That's a resolution, right?
It is 26.
Resolution 26.
6. I second the motion. Any other discussion on it? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye. Passes. Thank you.
thanks, Commissioners.
Thanks, Chad. Good to see you here. Next, looks like we got a few from the Sheriff's Office. So we'll start out with a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Alpha Counseling and Treatment, Inc. to provide mental health services to inmates as required by state and federal laws and regulations. Miss Ebert,
Hello.
welcome.
Okay, the first contract I have, as you mentioned, we, as the Sheriff's Office in the past, have contracted with Weber Human Services for a number of years to provide mental health services to the inmates in the county jail. This contract expired this year, and Weber Human Services has exercised the clause to discontinue the contract with us. So we went out with a request for proposals for these services. We received a number of proposals and went through a selection process and have selected Alpha Counseling to fulfill this contract. The actual amount of the contract will actually save us a little bit of money every year over what we were paying Weber Human Services. So we're excited about that, and we think that Alpha Counseling will do a really good job for us.
Okay, I don't have many questions, so.
So how did we end up on the financial aspect of this? Was this a net neutral contract? Did we-
No, the amount of the contract we were paying for Weber Human Services for those services in the jail was just over $200,000, and our new contract is $184,000 per year, and this is a 3-year contract.
Does that lock in that cost then?
It's subject to a review every year, but it's reviewed by both parties and agreed upon by both parties.
Okay,
Wonderful. I'll make a motion that we approve the contract by and between Weber County and Alpha Counseling and Treatment to provide mental health service to inmates.
I second it. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, number 4. Staff, stay right there. You're going to be there in a minute. Request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the State of Utah District Court to provide bailiff and court security services to the Weber District and juvenile courts.
Okay, this is just a renewal of the contract that we've had with the district court for several years. The amount this year is the same. We will be receiving $771,780 for the year, and we bill the district and the juvenile courts for the services that we provide for bailiffs and court security.
Okay. So we're still upside down on the contract like usual.
A little bit.
When we, okay. Frustrating. I know it's frustrating for you guys too, but it's frustrating that we're a lot upside down, so.
It's a service we have to provide, and we're kind of subject to what the state will
That's correct.
give us.
Since we
so-
are a subdivision of the state, actually.
Correct. Correct. So, okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve contract by and between Weber County and the State of Utah District Court to provide bailiff and court security services.
I second it, noting that the state doesn't pay near their share. But I do second it. Okay, any other discussion? Since I see none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, request for approval of trainee reimbursement agreements by and between Weber County and Dustin Stewart to provide reimbursement for peace officer training costs.
This is just the standard contract that we've been signing with those individuals from our office that we hire to send through the Peace Officer Academy, whether it be the Corrections Academy or the Law Enforcement Academy. And if the individual decides that they want to go elsewhere within 2 years, then they're subject to reimbursing the costs that we provided for them to attend the training. So this individual, Dustin Stewart, is currently a corrections deputy in our sheriff's office, and we are sending him through the law enforcement module in the academy, and he will be transferring to the law enforcement division when he's
Great.
done. So,
Have we had anyone that has left before their contracts have come up?
no,
No.
not yet. We've only done a handful. I think we've done maybe half a dozen of them so far, and no one has left yet.
Great. Still have a bunch of openings over there?
We do. We've got about, I think, 9 right now.
So seemingly this program was started because we couldn't attract certified or certifiable applicants, and it was to,
That's correct. A number of years ago, we ran our own academy at the sheriff's office, a satellite academy through Post. But the market at, I would say probably 8 years ago, was flooded with individuals that had already gone through an academy on their own. And we didn't feel the need was there for us to continue our own academies. Since then, we've kind of seen a turnaround again. We're having a difficult time trying to attract individuals that are certified at all. And so we've gone back to hiring trainees. The number has not been such that we feel like we need to start our own academy. And the Fred House Academy, which provides the correctional academy, and Post itself has been very willing, as well as Weber State, to take some of our employees into those academies and train them for us.
So basically, the cost reimbursement's not for the academy, it's for their wages. we're
Wages
paying.
and benefits.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's great. That's a great program, so. All right, unless you have any other questions, Commissioner?
no, I'll make a motion that we approve the training reimbursement agreement by and between Weber County and Dustin Stewart to provide reimbursement for peace officer training costs.
I second it. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, request for approval of contracts by and between Weber County and the following cities for law enforcement: Far West City, Hooper City, Huntsville Town, Merritt Slaterville City, Plain City, Uinta City, Washington Terrace City, and West Haven.
Okay, so these are all individual contracts, but I'll kind of address them all together collectively, if that's okay.
Yep, absolutely.
We did have a current 5-year agreement that had expired on June 30th of this year. Earlier this spring, we had sent out our estimated cost to continue to provide these services for the next year based on the current formula that we were using on calls for service and population. And we handed those out to the cities so that they could prepare for their budget cycle, since their cycle starts in July. And the contract, as I mentioned, expired at the end of June. And Reed Richards and the sheriff met and decided that it would be a good idea to just have a 1-year extension on those contracts, and so that we could just get through this next year with those amounts that we had sent to them.
Okay. So I do have a couple of questions. So we're looking, as people may know or not know, we're looking at some tax increase, and we're looking at some tax increase for the sheriff's office. And if we pass a tax increase for the sheriff's office, and let's say we make that effective in October, we want to make it. These contracts with the cities go clear till next June. And if we're raising our rates, our prices we're paying our deputies, there's going to be, if it's a substantial raise, whatever the raise is there, our cities are going to have to pick up these costs. So I know we'll be able to pick them up July 1 next year from the contract cities, because we can get that information in the next month to them after we make those decisions, whatever they may be. But what do we do for those 8 months in between where we're going to give some, if we give raises, how are we going to recoup some of that? Do we have a plan there?
It's a little bit difficult process. It always has been, because of the difference in fiscal years, where the city's fiscal year starts in July and ours is in January. So there's always been a little bit of a lag with the difference in what our budget may be versus when we provide the costing information to the cities for their budgets. And so some of that is has just always been a factor. We have had some vacancies that we've not been able to fill in the last little while. Not as many in the law enforcement division. Most of the vacancies we have been in corrections, and so we're hoping that some of that savings from those vacancies will be able to carry us through until the next budget cycle for the cities.
Okay. Thank you. What is the total contract with all these cities together? I know I have the individual ones, and do you have a total cost?
The amount for the 8 cities is $3.2 million. That doesn't account for the unincorporated, which we treat we treat the same way as we treat the cities.
Right.
But I don't have that contract. And so just the 8 cities total just over $3.2 million.
Okay. Perfect. Well, it's an important thing for our sheriff's office. These contracts we give these cities get a great service being with the sheriff's office. I just want to make sure that the cities, that we get to the point where they're covering their law enforcement costs, and that other cities like Ogden and cities that don't have that law enforcement aren't subsidizing them. So we'll continue working that as we're going through this process. I appreciate the work you do on it, and I know it's a lot because I used to be over there and see that work that goes on there, and so there's some great things going on there. So,
one thing I might add is I mentioned the formula that we have been using for the last several years has been based on calls for service and population, and some of the cities, kind of depending on where they fall in, which area they're heavier in, whether they have more calls for service or population, kind of argue either way that one should have a higher weight than the other. And right now we've kind of just done a 50-50 split, and we are looking at some data that we collect with some units that we have on our vehicles, and to try to better understand how much time each of our patrol deputies is spending in each of our cities. And so hopefully that will, moving forward, help us get a better idea of what cities receive more time, more services than the others. So we may be able to use that in the future in some of some form or fashion in this formula that we use for them. So,
Great. A lot that goes in that, that's for sure. So thank you so much. Okay, Commissioner Ebert, do you have any questions?
No, we've gone over this numerous times, looking at the equation and talking to the various mayors about the issues and the concerns that they have. So this is an ongoing process, and we'll continue to look at how we can provide these services without any types of subsidies and provide the very best services to those communities that we can. I am very proud of our sheriff's office. I'm proud of the employees there and the pride that they take in performing their duties both on the road and in the correctional facilities and the support service staff. So they provide an amazing service. We want to make sure that we let them know we appreciate that. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contracts by and between Weber County and the following cities for law enforcement: Far West, Hooper, Huntsville, Marriott, Slater, Plain City, Uinta, Washington Terrace, and West Haven.
I second it. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes. Thank you. Thanks, Steph. Next, Linda, come on up. Request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Wadman Corporation for a general contractor for the renovation of the main library. And also, somewhere along the line, we need to talk about our AAA bond rating we got. I don't know if this is the time, but probably. So maybe you go on with your stuff, and we'll have John Bond come up and make a little mention when you get to the end of your thing, and we'll talk about libraries and the bonding. Go ahead,
Right.
Linda.
Thank you. Well, Commissioners, I have for your consideration an agreement between Weber County and Wadman Corporation for renovation of the main library. The contract is in two parts: the standard form of agreement between the owner and the contractor, and the general conditions of the contract for construction. Both parts have been certified by Tom Brennan, principal architect with EDA Architects, and reviewed and approved by both the county attorney's office and the county's insurance provider. If approved this morning, it is our intent to provide the contractor with a notice to proceed this afternoon, giving them 10 days to be on site and commence the project, and 447 days to complete the work. The contract sum stipulated for payment is $12,398,000. Completing the project in fewer phases than originally planned will be less expensive for the contractor, and the savings will be passed along to the county. In addition to cost, there are two other important factors that need to be considered in making the award today. The first is timeline. The original target date for completing the work and rededicating the main library was April 7th, 2018. Our new construction completion date is September 21st, 2017, almost 6 months ahead of schedule, with the goal of now being able to have the library completely set up and ready for rededication January 1st, 2018, which is still about 3 months ahead of the original schedule. The contractor has agreed to liquidated damages in the amount of $2,000 a day for any delays in reaching benchmark goals in the timeline, so we feel really good that we can meet this aggressive schedule. In addition to cost and time, the third important consideration in the contract award is the quality of construction. During negotiations with Wadman executives, they agreed to benchmark the quality of the main library against their recently completed Payson Ildias Temple. This temple quality workmanship will result in a new main library that will be a source of pride for the people of the entire county and perhaps well beyond. This contract then represents the lowest cost, a shortened timeline, and a very high level of construction and finishing, resulting in a contract award of the greatest value to the people of the county. During their August 2nd meeting, the library board reviewed the contractor evaluation and selection process and then voted to approve the contract and forwarded it to you this morning for your consideration, urging your approval as well.
Commissioner Ebert, your
Well,
So,
the first thing I would say is the last person on the planet I would negotiate with would be Linda Wainsgard. She is very good at getting the very best interest out of every project that I've seen her involved in. And so I wish to express my appreciation to Linda and for the work that the library staff does, because I can tell you, they did get the very best quality, they did get the very best price, and they are getting this project done before the initial timeline. I don't know what else you can ask. There's really nothing left on the table. Better quality, best price, done faster. That's how we want to run our county as a whole. And so that's a great benchmark, and I appreciate all the work. And it was a tremendous amount of work. We had, I don't know how many meetings with contractors to get here. So great job, and I appreciate the end product. And the library will be an amazing facility when the renovation is done. So great job.
so I'll just add real quick, because I've been around the library talk since it started. And I probably had a lot of questions as we went through it. If anybody ever read the newspaper, they noticed I had a lot of questions about things. But I have learned that Linda Wainsgard knows how to run a budget and knows how to get the job done. And I'm telling you, we would not be in this spot today if it wasn't for her. And I have a tremendous respect for where you're bringing us on these libraries. I look at that Roy Library. I look at us where we came in under budget, tremendously under budget, and what you did out there. It's a piece of art, and it's great for our community. It's great for our community as a whole. So, Linda, I appreciate what you've been doing on this. I'm sure you're getting tired of it all because you've been very, very busy, and we appreciate that. We got one more to go in North Ogden, and it's underway now finally. And so I appreciate what you've been doing and what you've been doing on this project. So I'll accept motion unless you've got some more comments, and then we'll have John talk about the bond, or do we want to do that first?
Let's finish this, and then maybe we can have Mr. Bond talk about the bond rating.
About bond.
Bond. Just a quick housekeeping. Usually on our contract sheet, there are signatures for both legal and both purchasing, the clerk's office. We don't have, on our copy, that has not been signed on legal. And far as Scott Park, are there any questions or concerns moving this forward, or do we need to put a stipulation on this?
We've looked at it from legal.
Okay.
Our concerns came from some thoughts that purchasing had and legal, and we were okay if they were okay, so we're all right.
So okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'll make a motion then that we approve the contract by and between Weber County and Wadman Corporation for general contractor of the renovation of the main library.
I second it. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes. Thanks, Linda.
Thank
I
you,
don't-
gentlemen.
John, why don't you come up? Just one little side note on this. We're using Wadman Corporation, and it's great that we're using local contractors. We've got some great contractors in our county, so that's great. Thank you, Linda. John, why don't you fill us in real quick about our bond rating?
Super. Yesterday afternoon, Fitch announced that they had signed on the next bond that we're doing for the library, a AAA bond rating again. To put it in some kind of context, we had about a 5-year building project with the libraries, and due to IRS, other federal laws, we have to spend the money that we borrow within a 3-year time frame. So we knew that we had to go out at least twice for 2 different bonds in getting the entire project completed. So we went out initially for about $34 million. Of the $45 million that was approved by the voters and the commission, we initially went out for about $34 million. We needed to go out for a bond rating for that. What the bond rating does for us, it establishes a credit rating for us in the bond community when we go out to market. And the better the bond rating, the less interest investors require us to pay. Tremendous effort to put that together by a variety of people. We've got our bond, our financial advisor here today, and bond counsel. Several employees in the county put a lot of work into preparing the county's presentation. At that time, we flew to San Francisco and met with them personally, came back with a AAA bond rating. It allowed us to go to market and get a much lesser interest rate for the public. to pay interest at. So we then knew that we had to go out for a second bond. And so we just finished completing another presentation to Fitch Rating Agency. And yesterday they announced that we did, on this second bond, also get a AAA bond rating on it, which allows us next Thursday, a week from Thursday, to go out to the market. And that's when we'll find the results of the interest rate that we'll get in this second borrowing, which will complete the Ogden branch here and the branch in North Ogden.
Great. So Ricky, when we did this a couple of years ago, you had some figures. There's not a lot of government organizations that end up with these good of ratings. Is that true or not true?
That's correct. I float around the number of 6% across the country, but I don't trust myself on that one. So I don't know if our financial advisor has any of those numbers or statistics with us now. If so, share them. Otherwise, take my 6% with a grain of salt.
Okay.
The numbers we've got are that there were 62 in the nation that Fitch assigned a AAA bond rating to out of the 3,000 counties. 62 of them had a AAA from Fitch for the specific type of bond, which is long-term, which is general obligation bond. And that's where the voters have to vote and allow the county to proceed. So that's a specific, very niche, and it's kind of like the loan on your house versus a loan on your car. It's the long-term debt. So if you take a line from Texas to the West Coast, there are about 7 counties in that area. Salt Lake County and us, the only 2 in Utah, and a few in the other states that have achieved that rank. So
Great.
I think it's tremendous, and it gives great credit to the employees here in the county, our economy, and the leadership of the county. So thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you. Like Ricky and John they're great people. They do a great job. County's in good hands with these gentlemen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Based on John's numbers, that puts us at about the top 2% in the
Great.
country. So I was right that I was wrong.
Anyway, it's a big deal. It's a big deal getting these kind of ratings. So, I have a chance to see other folks around the country, other commissioners, and we talk about different things, and we're in a really good spot compared to a lot of counties. So thank you for that. Any more comment on that, Commissioner Ebert?
Nope, I was very happy to hear that.
Okay. Rick Grover, come on up. Request for a resolution of County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Western Weber Planning Commission.
Good morning. We have 2 slots open on the Western Weber Planning Commission, and we have 2 people who have applied. The individuals who've applied is Blake Hancock. He's an insurance agent, and he is from West Weber. And we have Jennifer Welliner. She's a human resource coordinator, and she's from Taylor. And we would like you to consider those names today.
Thank you. It needs to be noted that the planning commissions are volunteer. And so they are extremely important because we have to go through those processes before we start doing the county master plans and everything we do. So they put a lot of time in, and they don't get paid anything. I think we may take them to dinner around Christmas time for a dinner somewhere, but that's about all they get. And so I appreciate their service. I appreciate all that you're doing there to keep these. We have 2 planning commissions, unusual for a county. Most counties would only have 1. We have 2, an Upper Valley and a Lower Valley. We felt it necessary to have 2 because they're distinctly a little different on what we're doing. And so I appreciate all your work you do with it. And so I'll turn it over to James. Commissioner Ebert.
Well, I would, I guess my recommendations would be to appoint both Blake Hancock and Jennifer Wilner, I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly, to the Weber County Western Weber Planning Commission, and just express their appreciation for their willingness to serve.
So will that be Resolution 27?
Right.
Okay. I approve the resolution number 27, appointing 2 members to the Planning Commissioner, Jennifer Wellner and Blake Hancock. I second it. Any other discussion? It's going to be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
And Chair Bell?
Aye. Thank you. Number G, public hearing. Request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting, convene in a public hearing.
So moved.
All right. Does that need to be a roll call, or we're good with that? Good. Okay. Number 2, public hearing to receive comment with respect to the issuance of approximately $10,150,000 sales tax revenue bonds and any potential economic impact that the project to the financed and the proceeds of said bonds may have on the private sector. So let's probably start off with, I don't know, I don't have a name on this, but John, Ricky, our financial advisor, whoever wants to come on up here and let us know what we're doing.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've got an opportunity to accelerate a couple of road projects here in the county, and in so doing, the funding for that would come from a transportation fund that's reviewed by WACOG, the Weber Area Council of Governments, as well as the county commissioners, and they provide a program or a schedule of taxes that we've collected that will be applied toward transportation projects in the community. And two of those projects that are on that list to receive funding over periods of the next 5 years are projects at 12th Street and 3500. Because the construction crews are there, the county commissioners have chosen, I think, to examine whether to accelerate those projects ahead of what the programming is as far as the release of funds out of this WACOG Transportation Fund, and as such, have the work done a little sooner. In doing that, we would go out and borrow funds sufficient right now to get those projects underway and moved along a little bit faster. We would go out to the market and find funding for this and then be reimbursed by the Transportation Fund account over the next 3 to 5 years. And so in so doing that, the request is to present this bond as an option to accelerate those projects, get them done a little sooner, and then be able to get reimbursed by the transportation funds and pay the loans back. Currently, as we currently sit, there would be a little bit over $6 million would be applied to accelerate the 12th Street project, and a little under $3 million would be proposed to accelerate the 3500 West project. So the question at hand is whether we should proceed with those two projects as they've been outlined.
Okay, thanks. So as we start collecting these funds, when WACOG or where these funds come in, they'll go right to pay off that loan.
That's the way we've designed the model, yes.
Okay. So it's probably going to be a loan that's going to be 3 or 4 years out.
I think we've we'd like to give ourselves enough room so that we make sure that everything is snug. So I think right now we've looked at a 10-year note. Okay. But anticipate that in the negotiation of paying that off, we will ask for acceleration clauses, which will allow us permission by the lender to pay these off as quick as we can. So that would be the intent, is to pay them off as we get money from this WACOG Transportation Fund to pay those off as quickly as we can, as soon as we get money that's set for the next 4 or 5 years from that, the way they've designed the schedule. Yeah.
So if some of the money from WACOG, if something changed in the future, we have a funding stream that will pay for this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bond, we had 2017, 2018, and 2019 funds available. There are also some 2020 funds. Are they included in the funding stream into this bond?
Currently, I believe we're just going to 2019. Is that?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the plan right now is to use the 2016 funds, 17, 18, and 19. The 2016s are being expended now, and then to accelerate the 2017, 18, and 19s.
So why would we do a 10-year note if we know we've got funding to pay for it for? Because the shorter the note, we'd get a better interest rate.
There again, we want to make sure we have flexibility. We can pull it to 5 years.
We have flexibility.
And that's the only reason
once today's over, we still have
yes.
flexibility.
As we look, we plan on going to market in the next 2 weeks, and as we get closer to that, if there's anything that comes from this public hearing or from you that would be wanting to reshape how we put the timing on that, we certainly will include that, yes. So if we want to bring it down to a 5-year window,
okay,
not a problem at all.
Okay, great. The staff has more information. I'm going to turn it over to public comment. Please limit comments to 3 minutes, but I don't see a lot of public here, and if you wanted to take 5, you can take 5. You can take 10. You can take 30 minutes. Going once. Public comment. Going twice. Okay, we'll close public comment. Number 4, action on public hearing. Let me double check here, David. So if we proceed with this, with a motion, and to accept this, it just starts the ball rolling, correct? Starts the time clock moving, and then we can sit and relook at the actual dollar parts and that as we move along.
Yeah, I don't think there's any action required. We'll look to Jonathan to answer that, but this is just a public hearing, two-part public hearing.
Okay.
To see public comment and then to see if any private entities are concerned about competition with private industry.
Jonathan Ward, he's our financial advisor from Zions Bank. He drove here from Salt Lake. I don't know if he has any other comments, but he's welcome to, if you'd like him to address anything else.
We would love to hear from him if he came from Clear Salt Lake. Hi, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Pleasure to be up here again. No, the hearing is the opportunity for the public to voice their comments or concerns. No action is required, as Mr. Wilson suggested, but it is nice to have any direction, discussion in terms of the project scope, the list, what's included, what isn't. At some point, the commission would decide these projects are in, these projects are out, this is how much we'd allocate to this project, this is how much we would allocate to that project. The resolution that the commission approved back in July authorized all the necessary steps to execute the bond transaction once the commission makes that determination on the project scope, size, etc. And as long as the execution fits within the parameters that were provided in the July 12th meeting. So we're just ready to go. Interest rates are very low. We're not at the rock bottom interest rates. Rates basically have moved up about 5 to 10 basis points over the last 2 weeks from where they were at rock bottom levels, but we're still at an extremely low borrowing cost environment, which is positive for us. And we just would, at some point, as Mr. Bond suggested, we'll want to define what this project looks like, final sort of structure. Is it a 10-year obligation? Is it a 5-year obligation? Do we have 10 years with the prepayment provisions that allow us to pay it off sooner than later? Or do we do a 5-year with more of a balloon type of structure? Our recommendation is to give yourself the latitude and flexibility, have a 10-year obligation, and pay it off sooner, even though, as you suggested, Commissioner Bell, that 10-year financing's more expensive than 5, but in our rate environment today, it's almost negligible, the difference, because we're so low. But I think we're in a good spot, and congratulations to the county on the AAA bond rating.
Thank
I
you.
told John Bond, I think actually there are fewer entities today that have the AAA bond rating, so it's really commendable. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Jonathan.
If I might make mention
Yes.
also, in the resolution that occurred, I think it was the 11th or 12th of July, there were 4 components of this bond that initially were out front in front of the commissioners. There was work on 12th Street. Included in the work on 12th Street was an indication of an examination of any type of sewer. In addition to that, there was also an examination of whether there was interest in the commission's choice of whether to work with another landfill concept and how that might go. And that was included in there also as an option. Again, the commissioners have the flexibility of choosing the entire amount of the bond amount that we looked at, which was about 10.1. And those 4 projects were initially targeted. If you choose to have the full amount or lesser amount, any of those projects or none of them, really at this point, your public input allows you to see if you want to be motivated to move in any of those directions. And so you got the flexibility right now to choose until we go to market.
Thank you. All right, well, the public hearing is closed unless there's someone that wants to come up and talk. So I'll request for a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
So moved.
I second it. It's like we're back in the public meeting. So we'll go to H, which is public comment. Public comment. Anybody would like to come up and talk about anything? Okay. I'll say public comment's done. Just before we adjourn, our commission meeting next week is Monday at 6 p.m. Monday at 6 p.m. I am not sure if we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday at 10. We are not, so now I'm sure of that.
Our meeting will probably be between 5 and 5:30 with the public hearing starting at 6.
Okay. So we'll have our regular meeting next week, depending on how big the agenda is, either at 5 or 5:30. And the public hearing will start at 6 o'clock on some of the tax increases that we're looking at, primarily for our public safety. So that is next Monday, 6 p.m. here. We will not be meeting next Tuesday. You come here next Tuesday, you won't see us here. Okay?
And really quickly before I leave, if I could get Commissioner Bell to take his hat off. I don't know if you've noticed, but he's looking a little scruffy lately. And there's a reason behind him looking scruffy. There is a reason, and you've committed to it. We have our Weber County Commission golf tournament coming up, and we are auctioning off Commissioner Bell shaving and having a haircut that's presentable. And we're using it again to get money for, to raise money for charity. And so there's a purpose behind the madness, and we hope to use it as a way to, again, raise funds for charity for the different charities we have that our staff picks out. So I'm hoping his hair gets really long and scruffy so we can raise a lot of money for him. So thank you, Commissioner.
Wow, that's on public record now, isn't it? Way to go, Commissioner Weaver.
I'm tying you in to make
You've
sure
tied
that
me
you don't
in,
back
haven't you?
pedal.
I'm not going to back out.
And I would like to express my appreciation for both Commissioner Gibbs and Commissioner Bell. It's been a great experience so far being a commissioner, and the leadership that Commissioner Gibson has shown as the chair. And I appreciate the time that he spent. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to organize these meetings and to make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And I appreciate Commissioner Bell accepting, for the short time he's here, the mantle of the chair. And I expect to see great things moving forward. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The fair, remember the fair.